What's up? What's up? What's going on, LTA? What's on the menu for today? Let's talk about how there's more bad things usually than good things that happens to people, for most people anyway. I would think for everybody, by the time you get, if you do reach 80, let's say, I think you probably went through more bad, experienced more bad, or even heard about more bad. So it kind of desensitizes you. I know, speaking for myself, it does. You stop being able to grieve right, or whatever grieving right means. You stop like crying. You stop feeling bad. You might feel bad. You might be sad, but you don't really show it, or it's even just less, or maybe you just don't. For example, I had a lot of deaths in my life, especially since 2020. Growing up, I was gang banging and stuff like that, so it was homies that passed. And definitely back then, that definitely hurts because you're young and you just now starting to experience death. But you also kind of like, say that's part of the situation, that's part of the program. So that hits a little different once family members and stuff start dying. I kind of was good, my family did pretty good growing up on family member wise. I had probably like 2 or so, and I wasn't even living in the same state as them when they passed. But 2020 came around, and I was having deaths back to back, including homies on top of that as well. So 2018, one of my close homies passed. 2020, auntie passed. 2021, my grandma passed. 2022, auntie passed. 23, nephew passed. 24, my mom passed, and a cousin passed at 24. You know what I mean? Like, so it was just back to back deaths. And like I said, it was homies in there too. So, I probably been, since 2020, I've probably been to like 6, 7 funerals, 5, like, I don't even know, to be honest. Probably like 10 funerals. But anyway, so once you go through that stuff, the more you go through it, the more numb you get. Somebody say, such and such died. You like, damn, that's fucked up. Rest in peace. But it's not like you bust out crying. I'm saying for me anyway. Some people probably still do. I think my cry tank is empty, to be honest, when it comes to deaths. Hopefully that ain't the case if somebody super close, don't even put that in the air pass. Hopefully I still have some type of, but I mean, it's kind of hard. Like even with my mom, I cried while she was in the hospital going through her situation, but not every day like you would think. You know what I mean? And then even when she passed, I started crying once, you finally, like when you get the news, like, oh yeah, last night she finally, transcended. But it still wasn't like a every day or every time I think about it, cry. Now at the funeral, I thought I was cool. I thought I got through it. You know what I mean? I thought it was all good. And I even had the funeral pushed out a little bit. I had the funeral pushed out, say, let me see. She passed April. I had a funeral at the end of June, I believe. Just for my family, her sisters and brothers and all my cousins could try to get up here because we live in a different state than the rest of our family. Which that was a waste of time because only one person from out of town came. No, 2 people. 3 people. Right? Yeah, 3 people. Or was that 4? 4 people came. Her brother, one of her brothers, and one of the brother that came, son. One of her sisters and her sister that came, son. And then my brother, which is obviously, her son. Well, I shouldn't say obviously because it could have been from my dad. But anyway, 5 people from out of town came. So pushing the funeral back was a waste of time. But anyway, I cried once I got up there to speak. Once I got up to the podium to speak, I started crying. And that was the biggest cry once I got to the podium. And like I said, I thought I thought I had it under control. I thought I got all my crying out, even though it was only like 3 times I cried in this whole process. I thought I got it all out. You know, I'm one of them type of people that was kind of raised. My mom raised me to not do too much crying about stuff in the first place. Let's start there. She raised me like that. And second of all, like I said, I've seen so much in my life that, you know, you just, like I said, your cry tank just run out. But when I got up to that podium to speak for my mom, I definitely started crying, and it was, like I said, it was the hardest cry since the whole process started, right? But I just wanted to talk about how the more bad things happen to you, the more desensitized you get, because, you know, bad things is gonna happen no matter if it's a death, no matter if it's somebody, you know, like doing something to you. It could be somebody stole from you. It could be you know, getting into fights when you're younger. You know, it could be all types of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, bad stuff is going to happen to you, it seems like, more than good stuff. So I just always wonder, you know, they say don't question God, right? Which I definitely believe in a higher power. I'm very, you know, connected with believing that it's something bigger than me. But I just don't understand that, though. I don't get the whole why. Why is life created like that? Why is it designed to, you know, like, to hurt you, so to speak? Why is that? Why does it seem like no matter what, like I said, it's going to be bad things more than good things that happens? I just always wonder that. You know what I mean? It just feels like you get more prepared when you know there's constantly bad things going on. You kind of prepare for that. So it's like when stuff do happen, you was prepared for the most part anyway, because you just never really know until it happens. But yeah, for the most part, it's like, oh man, I've been through this, or, you know, I was prepared for this. I was expecting this, and that just desensitizes you. And do that spread across the board then when it comes to feelings, period, all around? You know what I'm saying? When somebody pass, or you know, somebody get hurt or something of that nature, do you just be numb to it? I tell you one thing I ain't numb to, and that's crazy that now that I even think about this, I'm never numb to other people having bad situations. You know what I mean? Now, when it's like, say I'm watching a video or whatever, and a little kid get kidnapped, or even a human being or, you know, adult, I should say, get kidnapped. You know, I always, you know, that I hurt for that person. Or when somebody's getting tortured or locked away, or, you know, like how they, you know, how people do, keep people in basements forever, or whatever the case may be. I still feel bad for that type of stuff. I feel bad seeing people get jumped and stumped out, face kicked off and shit like that. So I do feel bad for that. So I guess I'm not numb to that part of it. But yeah, when it comes to deaths, though, when it comes to stuff happening to me, I'm desensitized, if that makes sense. But yeah, what you think, man? Do you know, why do you think life is like that, though? Why do you think that for the most part you're going to go through more bad than good? What's the purpose of that? You know, even if you believe in a higher power, a creator, what's the point of going through bad all the time? Some people will say, well, for when you do transition, you know, because of your resilience, you might live better in Christ, or whatever the case may be, whatever your higher power is. Do you believe in that, or what? That, I mean, I guess that's one thing that makes you keep your faith as well, too, right? Believing there is something better than what's on the earth. I know that's what keeps my faith. Every time I think about bad stuff, I'm like, man, there got to be something better. There got to be another way. So, you know, let me know. Tell me about it. Let's talk about it. LTA.